Well, good morning, everybody. It is another showcase here, and I am delighted, happier than ever, to have the Chelsea supporting Kevin Ellis here, not to mention anything about the weekend's football. He's promised me he's going to be good. Kev, how are you?
I'm really good. I was even better at the weekend, but obviously I'm not allowed to talk about that, so because I don't want to get cut off, Whaley. So yeah, all really good.
Excellent.
My team are all hiding behind here. They've been told not to move, not to make any noise.
They're all crawling on. They're all crawling on their arms to get the coffee.
They're in like sniper mode at the moment, going across the office, and yeah.
Don't worry about this. As I've said many times, if you're thinking professional webinars, that's Christopher Watkins. Of course, this is Kerfuffle. We're much more relaxed.
Great. I'm still waiting for the merch, by the way. I've not got any merch.
That is outrageous. They haven't got you the merch. That's okay.
No merch. I think that you just buy. I think you just get sent a trial of this stuff and one piece, and that's all it is. I think it's back to your scarcity model.
Look, as you know, we're famously pre-revenue. So what we do is we always ask for the merch back. Right. Corona be damned. So you wouldn't want it now that 30 different suppliers have worn it.
The Kerfuffle hat for anyone that's got COVID to sort of identify themselves rather than this sort of track and trace.
I think that's a real possibility. We've always been an edgy brand. Why not take it on? Anyway, no, it was only fun while Trump had it. Let's kick on.
Yeah, but he's feeling better now for it, apparently.
He never had it. He never had it. Let's do conspiracy theories straight off.
Go for it.
Obviously, your Land and New Homes, well known as a brand within the industry. There, for those people that aren't involved with it, though, can you give some sort of flavour of the sorts of revenues that that some of your members are experiencing, just to whet the palate, just to let them know why they should be paying attention for the next 45 minutes, an hour of this webinar? Why do you think it is so important?
Okay, I'm gonna rewind a little bit back before we set the network up, and I'm gonna go back to my Romans days. And Dale, who I worked really closely with at Romans, had a great analogy or a great reference, which was every market makes a market, but also before he'd allow opening another office, it was always about squeezing the lemon. And we actually wouldn't open an office unless we had a new home site to go to, because as a cold start, we'd have done the prep work a year, 2 years in advance, but at least having hopefully something lined up. Yeah. So I think in essence, what can an agent do with it? Well, I come off a webinar this morning. An agent who was in our office last week started New Homes about 3.5 years ago. Never done it before. They've just had $100,000 sales month. Wow. And that's without opening another office, and that's without having much more in terms of sort of headcount. So we've seen many examples of that. If you put the effort in, you're going to get out what you put in. If you don't do very much, no surprises. You're going to always get what you've always had, which for most agents is maybe a bit of a bit part in terms of an intro only instruction from a developer, and then you're into the bun fight with the sales rep on site doesn't want to acknowledge the intro, and it all becomes a bit of a car crash. So yeah, in short, we've got some agents that, frankly, New Homes has saved them through COVID. Yeah. We've got others. I remember one of our guys 18 months ago said, had it not been for this, they'd sort of gone and over-committed onto new branches, and maybe the revenue wasn't coming in, had a bit of a nasty VAT bill coming, and that month, $70,000 that landed on New Homes income saved their bacon. But
that's fantastic to hear. You just must be so proud in terms of hearing that sort of feedback at an unprecedented time, obviously, when you're out there. I mean, I do have to say, Kev, genuinely, this is one of those Alan Partridge moments where you asked me to say it. You were one of those suppliers that when the shit hit the fan, you went straight on the front foot, didn't you, and went out to your members. And I think you need massively to be applauded there. You were just so proactive. Lots of people spoke about being in this together, but they didn't really deliver on the promise, did they? So you do have to take your hats off to it, and then also to be able to have done what you did there in terms of giving a bit of a discount, and also having a solution that was still making money at the time. Must have just been it must have been just a very proud moment for you.
I think it is. I think, look, sometimes I think it's very, we're humble enough not to sort of sit on our laurels, and it's great to hear those things. But I think for us, we've always put this pressure on. We're not backed by a corporate company. Pete Knight, myself, and Ian set the business up 4 years ago, and you're right. We made a commitment very early. Well, literally the minute we sussed that something was likely to go down, that what would we do? And our view's always been that, and we've just changed our analogy. Before we had members of the network, now we've changed it as partners.
Okay.
And I think the definition of partners is very different. So I have a great belief, particularly around the house build thing. An agent's role isn't just to be a service provider. It should be that it effectively is a partnership. And with that, you don't then get beaten up by them for stuff. You can build a lot more of a harmonious relationship. I think the key bit for me, though, Whaley, is that from where those successes were, it was when there was all manner of, frankly, shit going on for people. They were aware enough of how they needed to get their fixes of where revenue was going to come from. And we jumped on, I remember it vividly, we jumped on a Zoom call with each of our regions really quickly, and we looked at, let's say, the region of a house builder. And because of the data we take from Sprift every month, so we have a great relationship with those guys, we identified really quickly the house builders that were probably in a bit of shtuck in terms of stock. So bear in mind, they were actually, house builders were really envious of agents when we went into it. So I think there's a massive appreciation now for what an agent does, because the agents were nimble enough. They were in the tech. They were, much more adaptive to what was going on. And these guys at house builders didn't have access to that stuff.
Yeah.
What we then had is so many developers. This stock was building up, and no surprises, construction sites were still going on, and this stock was still building and building. And we were doing, I remember talking to Tim up at Pygate and Crone, and some of the deals that were getting done for those guys on bulk deals, and no surprise, really brilliant agency, but many others copied it. And one of our guys, I think they wrote, I think one deal they did was an 80 grand invoice, which was almost, I think it was invoiced within 6 weeks of lockdown. Another, I think, had a 40. There was one down to about 20, but all it was doing was just packaging up these sort of 6 units on one site here, 7 here, whatever. And we're just doing deals to housing associations. Because the housing associations had the cash, they needed the stock.
Yes.
So this stuff was going on. So it wasn't that everyone was in like this full-blown panic mode. It was, they were really getting it. And, ultimately, no surprises, they've invested that money over the last 6 months, and their business are coming out, taking more market share, and really set up for a good end of the year and strong 2021, hopefully.
Yeah, so clearly, look, expertise is one of the core reasons that people come to be able to tap into that vast knowledge of your Romans days, and that combined now networking power as well, sharing of information and everything else there. Just one quick question. On the whole, are most of the members of in your group, are they companies with established land and new homes departments, or are there also a number who have literally started them up fresh working with you? How does the split work?
It's a real mix. So, we work with the likes of Webbers, Manning Staintons, Ryder and Dutton, big firms, long established, got land and new homes divisions. And then you've got others that have not done it before. We were on a Kerfuffle webinar, Whaley, a few months ago, and I won't say who the firm was, but back in the day, they'd been used to doing sort of £1 million a year on new homes, and now it's sort of fallen below 100 grand.
Yeah.
And it was because they've lost sight of these things and different things, and you end up, you can't plan for it. But I think what's happened, the nimble enough agents, and it doesn't matter what the size is, it's all about, will they adopt a process relentlessly and take a long-term view? So yes, we're obviously focused on the quick wins and the money for today, but it's all about building this order book for next year, the year after that, so that, God forbid we have something like this again, people are nimble enough to do it. And Matt's, talk about Matt Nicol often, Will down at Complete and others. It's a real mixture. I can't sit and say that it's one definitive group. I think if you look at what Anthony Pepe and Location are doing as far as their new collaboration is One Land and New Homes, I think that's going to have real legs.
Okay.
And I think there's a really good example there of a couple of agents who have been very aligned, bringing the right individual on board, which maybe, I can't speak for Charlie or Asa, but, maybe would one of those have wanted to have carried that cost all themselves? Maybe not. Well, maybe the splitting or the sharing of that cost. And because they work so well and they get on really well together, they can actually take and grow a business to be, what I think in their sort of part of London is going to be quite a dominant force and a brilliant brand that Vicky Assad and Charlie have ultimately created there with, and Ari with the one brand.
So definitely one to watch there for you reckon, yeah?
Definitely one to watch, yeah. I think those guys have really got it. And interesting, we do a large outsource piece for them. So Andy, who's there, obviously is able to really free his time up to go and actually do deals. He's on to our team here every day, and they've got some great opportunities coming through. So I think it's realising what you're good at and what you're not good at. And you've all spoken about this outsource piece, and we've done outsource to a point before. We've just taken it on speed now to another level over the last 6 months, because we just feel that more people, they don't want the overhead of a certain member stock and then having to manage it and not know it. Whereas our guys, on a webinar of our members earlier on, and one of our guys has just done a deal or generated a deal from a planning architect relationship. It's a £70,000 deal. I didn't even know about it a month ago. It's a £3.5 million deal. And we didn't even know about it. We didn't even know about the site a month ago. So, and here we are in the final stages now of that deal being agreed, and that'll be cash in by Christmas.
Do you think that element where people are gradually, feeling more and more comfortable to outsource, does that just come from the confidence of working with you to start off with, and then actually, once you realise this is a company that's going to be there for you, that gives the right advice, they feel just much happier about sort of throwing their hat in fully with Land and New Homes?
I think that for some people, it's a bit like outsourcing around sales progression or whatever. A lot of people will say, is that a good thing, bad thing? And you've only got to look at the forums, and everyone's got a different view. I think for us, we've always been humble enough to say that, let us prove it, and we have to earn trust and respect. And whilst, everyone's always looking at, well, I want to get how they've got over there or whatever. Well, they got there by grafting. They got there by doing the hard yards. There isn't like an instant injection here that just sort of gives you that fix that you're going to get there in a heartbeat. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot of huge amount of legwork that has to go in. But I think, for us, we want to, each agent's got a different set of dynamics. So for, some of it might be looking very much to, they need the quick win, or they need to develop and cultivate the staff. Maybe they're trying to promote from within, or whatever it is. And we, a large part of it, probably we're working for free for them for quite a period of time, doing more to kick them on until the point then that they have got that sort of, they got that confidence to, say, actually, guys, let's dip our toe in the water. And for one agent up in Yorkshire now, we're doing all of their land function for them, from prospecting all their planning data, and it's a 3-day-a-week job for us. Just doing that work, but they're paying for it. But instead of, we're not making a massive margin on it. But what we are doing is we're hopefully helping them get there a hell of a lot quicker.
But what you're doing there is you're just you're playing the long term view as well, aren't you?
Look, I think like anything, for us, we've always said there's a lot more work that goes into it right at the very outset, to the point it's a lost leader in terms of, you're relying on the agent getting on and doing stuff. There then comes a point where, ultimately we're throwing everything in at the beginning, and hopefully that's going to pay off for the agent and us over a longer period of time. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But I think, for me, I've only got to look around at the relationships like with like the guys at Homes, guys at Nicol & Co, Complete, or whatever, people that have been with us right from day one. And here we are now, 4 years later. The relationship's got better and better, and you can then start to explore all sorts of other opportunities, maybe tapping into fringe areas. Because for me, it's all about the quality, not the quantity of the agents. I don't, we're not just trying to put a bum on a seat in any location. We want to work with the right people. And certainly now that definition of transferring from a member, one, I don't consider us as a group. Two, I don't consider it now as a membership organisation. It's a partnership. And I feel really strongly about that.
So, I mean, and that's backed up. There are a number of companies out there, suppliers, who do, I always used to talk about us wanting to be partners with, at Reapit when we really believed that, we didn't want to be a supplier to, we wanted to be a partner with. Clearly, you see such strong feedback about the Land and New Homes network from some very, I mean this in the most possible, best possible way, high maintenance, agents, i.e., if they have very high expectation levels, and if they weren't getting that, they would be quick to talk about it. So look, little things, but you've got a 5-star review on Kerfuffle, 21 there. I encourage anyone to go to your landing page, see the quality of the agent that is talking about Kev's business there, and actually take time to read the reviews about the detail they're going into. It's a real eye opener, and it's one of the reasons we really wanted to create the website, was to give a platform for companies like that to talk about. Kev, you mentioned the postcode kind of element there, and you've always said the New Homes Network only really works with agents that don't compete in any marketplace. Why is that?
Ultimately, for me, it was always about driving the true collaboration. And look, I think there's lots of really great networking groups out there. Like I said, we're a network, but for me, a true network should be about every agent being absolutely aligned and being able to sort of open up honestly about what maybe their challenges are, or where they might need some help. So as an example, I might be an agent in a location. I've got one office, and Crest Nicholson are going to come into my town and they're going to build a great big site. But all I get told as the agent, well, you don't bring us any land. Well, if I'm an agent, I'm only in one town. There's only a limited amount of land that I can offer. Whereas actually, if I had the confidence to be able to pick the phone up to my neighbouring, collaborative partner agent in another location, who actually has a bigger patch, more offices, potentially more opportunity, that's where the magic would happen. Because an agent might say, right, Fred, I really need your help. I'm up against Connells and all these other agents here. Help me. What actually the developer loves is the fact that actually independent agents working together. That's a bit like, does it really work? And then we show them, they're like,
it's like herding cats.
But would it happen if I'm a member of an organisation? Okay, I've got the membership in 5 of my towns, but I haven't got it in the other 3. Of course, it wouldn't. You just because the agent's going to be protecting their 3, their 3 in the town where they haven't maybe got that membership. Whereas for us, because of all the resources and the IP, the collateral that we produce, I don't want that neighbouring town, that agent saying you never send it, but then he does send it, and then it makes our core agent look a bit of a plum. It's just not. We'd far rather give agents much more white space around their area to grow into, rather than saying, right, you're limited here because you can't now do that because somebody else is there. And then all of a sudden we've got these awkward conversations, and this was always designed to be a very, very long-term game for us. So,
I mean, the guys have just posted up one of those testimonials for Matt Nichol, obviously an incredibly forward-thinking and fast-growing agent. And he says, support, advice and collateral to become the best in your patch with new homes and land opportunities. That's a classic example there, wasn't it, really, of what you're talking about, Kev? Those businesses that can really throw their heart and soul into this and will expand outside of their kind of core patch with this, given your backing.
Yeah, I remember Matt saying to me, it was an aspiration of his 4 years ago, to open a branch in Malvern. We had approaches from agents in Malvern, but as far as I was concerned, Matt was there first. Okay, you didn't have an office in Malvern, but we kept in contact all the time, right? Is it going to be coming? Is it going to be coming or whatever? And look, The rest of the story, as far as Matt and his business is concerned, is, it's well documented of just how far they've run. The great thing for his point of view, though, and mine, that I didn't then go and take a member in Malvern, which would have then meant an awkward conversation at the point he opened the branch. And then we're thinking, Christ, I don't want to, there has to be a loyalty here, a deep loyalty, and that's kind of the view we've taken.
So we mentioned a few of those really big companies before that are lucky enough or have been clever enough to build businesses with considerable resources. Obviously, that's not the case with many agents. So, what advice would you give to them as what's possible in a short period of time?
I think for me, the minute you start talking about land, everyone thinks that's a bit of a dark art, and they never get the opportunity to find those things or whatever. Fundamentally, Whaley, everyone that's running an agency, if you want land in new homes business, you've got to instill a land in new homes culture right the way through the business. That starts with, of course, telling your team what does a deal look like, what does a potential site look like. But if we want quick wins right now, for me, dead easy. I'm looking firstly at all of the new home stock that's available in my area with competing agents or directly being sold by a developer. You won't surprise you to go onto Rightmove and find many of your competitors as an agent that are poorly listing. So still showing CGIs when there's actual photography, maybe not referencing Help to Buy when that is available for that product. Show home date still showing a launch date in August, and here we are in 6th of October. There's so much really poor marketing. So it doesn't take much for a really attentive, good agent to stand out from the crowd. And also, I think the big one around that is that, as we said earlier on, there's a lot of agents at the moment talking about they're making hay and the numbers are really good. Tell the developers what those numbers are. It's not a bragging competition, but we've won a site for an agent where a developer was very anti bringing an agent on board, but they had 7 or 8 units that they wanted priority to be sold for year end, which was end of October. Average price is 650 grand. We picked a fee up at 1.5%. And the only reason they did it is because the developer was struggling. They were only getting single-digit viewing numbers every week. Well, I'm never going to get a sales rate with those numbers. When we then showed what the agent was doing in terms of book viewings, valuations, market appraisal, proper market activity, they're like, bloody hell, where's we want some of that. And no surprise, it's that shot in the arm, the injection that gets the energy in. So I think there's definitely a place for hitting that stuff. And the other one is really to fast track getting over the unbuilt consented sites and the stuff under construction. So the stock that's going to be coming to the market over the next 3, 4, 5 months. Getting in there now. Don't wait until the board goes up with another agent. Start courting it now. Understand what the developer wants for ongoing land.
That's an absolutely critical bit, isn't it, Kev? I mean, certainly some of the tools that you provide from a technology background do give you almost a head start on being able to get to those in the quickest possible, so you're ahead of the queue.
Yeah, well, I think one, there's the data, and two, in simple terms, data's great if you know what to do with it. I think the key really for me is, look, there's thousands of developers, trading across the UK. All an agent needs to worry about is who are the developers, large and small, that are building or would have an interest in their area, and start the relationship. And again, without repeating about the webinar we did earlier on with our members, but we've got a guy, James, here, and through lockdown, he's physically spoken to over 100 separate house building firms in the Southwest. And we have an explicit land requirement for each and every one of those developers. So lo and behold, when we now know what they want, we're going out to try and serve up, the sites, because we've got the data. So I'm an agent with one office in, Hem or Hempstead, and I've got a developer who wants to buy any site in Hertfordshire. Well, I'm going to, as the agent, I've got access to all this data, and I can then line up my other partner agents to sit on the Zoom call. The developers are like eating out your hands. But we've got to put energy for it.
What's interesting there, actually, you mentioned Swift earlier. I think it was on their webinar. We talk about that when that data, which is cold, almost almost useless in its raw format. It's when it switches into becoming useful information, isn't it? When you put context about it, when you can use that data for a point, that's when the magic happens, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a really big element there, Whaley, around, if I'm a developer, I'm coming into a new town, I want the confidence that the agent knows what's going on. And that isn't about just what the state of the nation is today. I want to know that the agent knows where my competing site's going to come from in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever. That all starts with raw data. The key is we have to interrogate it, and we have to keep maintaining it and developing it and moving it on. Now, that does take time, but if the time's invested now, that's going to pay you out, even probably to the point of not having to pitch for a site, because you've just thought it's almost like a shoe-in that you're there. So, I think there's a lot of work, that agents, I think they can overthink it in terms of the data, but I think it's been really clear. What do you think the house builder wants to hear? And in simple terms, they don't want to hear, I've got the biggest market share, I've got the best marketing. They don't give a monkeys, right? All they want is that you understand what their objective is. And if you can deliver to their objective, you're in the door. It ain't hard.
So let's deal with that one. There is a common misconception, I think, that obviously house builders don't like dealing with agents, and yet you did kind of allude that actually that one earlier might have firmly did at least originally feel that way. Is it a misconception? Do they kind of do they not want to work with agents, and why might that be?
I think that in simple terms, again, the perception is the agent what's the agent actually going to do? Okay. And it's not, developers will work with an agent, but there's got to be a reason why. And it isn't just that you've got the biggest branch in the town or whatever. It's, are you going to deliver on what you say you're going to deliver and keep the promises? And look, I'm not going to lie. We've had an instance with an agent not that long ago where they were desperate for the site, absolutely eager beaver to get it. And then let themselves down the minute we've got it, because it's just another listing to them. And what's then happened, the sales manager for the site is called up to the branch. He wants to talk to the sales progressor. Sales progressor doesn't call back. They do a mystery shop. Somebody goes in the site or goes into the office, asks explicitly for a type of product that this particular developer stock is. The neg doesn't mention it. He just talk, so you can see why a developer could be put off. If, however, you can confidently demonstrate a culture, and that you can demonstrate that you get what the objectives are and you stand firm to that. So another example, an agent's on a joint agency on a site with another a big volume agent. Our agent hasn't maybe had the best of time of it in terms of their number of sales versus the other agent. However, the standing of our agent is elevated way above the other agent, because their communications every week, they're not hiding from it. They're coming up with new initiatives and ideas, and the developer thinks the sun shines out the back. Yet they haven't sold as many. So you sort of look at it and balance, say, well, how can that be? But actually, this is relationship. This is trust. This is the integrity, if you like, that agents need to be building towards, and not. It's not like losing an instruction and thinking, oh, that's all right, there's another 2,000 of those out there. You lose one of these house builders, that's over.
You burnt your bridge, haven't you? That's pretty much it for foreseeable. I can't think of too many areas or niches where relationship building and sales is more important, is it, than this? That relationship is almost sacrosanct between the agent and the builder.
Yeah, I think that's actually where it really comes to its own. So something as simple as, I take a site on the market for a developer. My standard remit would be, I'm going to get every one of my branch staff down to that site for a morning breakfast meeting, and we're going to start our day off on that site. Well, just think about that for a second. I'm a sales director, and my agent rocks up with 20 members of staff, all intuitively sort of tuned into what my product is or whatever. I'm getting off on that as a house builder. That's giving me a lot of confidence. Whereas, so many agents, it's just another listing. It's not, it's not dealt with properly. So it ain't hard to really make that impact. And yeah, look, there's been, I think we did an update to our members last week. In the last 4 months, there's been over 5,000 new build units secured across the network, from all manner of all manner of developers, and we've sold over 4,000 plots via land.
Wow, that's impressive.
So that's land income for now, but that's going to be another 4,000 units on top of the 5. So, as a visible pipeline of opportunity that our members are going to have the benefit of over the next few years, there's loads. We just picked up 2 jobs from 2 local authorities that are turning into a developer. And because we really put the graft in on the development consultancy, one's a site for just over 2,500 units. The other will be another 1,500. First phase is 450. They're all confirmed instructions at 1.75.
Those are amazing figures, Kevin. I mean, it shows obviously the growing power of your network, Land and New Homes network. Are you having a demonstrable effect on the corporates? I mean, you must be stepping on their toes, aren't you? If you're going to start, doing those sorts of figures.
Yeah, look, we learned a really valuable lesson in a very, very short space of time in coming into lockdown, and that was that. Dale always taught me this at Raymond's. When the market hit the skids in 2008, we grew our Land and New Homes department. We didn't cut back. So we stuck with the clients that had paid us good money for the previous years.
Yeah.
We knew it was going to come back. I'll be honest with you, we have had a field day through lockdown by taking instructions from some of the corporates who frankly had neglected those developers when developers needed it most. So in Independent, I remember, sitting on many a one-to-one Zoom call with our members, and we were well out in front in terms of sort of doing stuff. And I remember we interviewed, fun enough, a guy from one of the big corporates, and he said, "I'm looking after." I said, "All my staff are furloughed. I'm looking after 29 branches, and I've got all the sales progression and all of the vendors to deal with. Developers ain't my priority." And I'm thinking, hallelujah, and it was literally like taking sweets off the tree. It was just so we've definitely benefited from that because we've just been nimble enough.
And we were talking earlier about Corona and how you'd obviously responded for some of your members. How else have you had to evolve the business, change the business, and how much of it has stuck with it post that at least formal lockdown process?
Yeah, well, we took a view again really early on that, and we've used this line: we're all in. If we were going to go down, we're going to go down together, and that wasn't an option, frankly. So we grew the team, and we listened to what the challenges were the members had. So far short of the adjustments we made in the fees for the period we did, we then ramped up what we would do for them. So where that's now come to is we've now really ramped up a full done for you service under what we call effectively L&H outsourced. Now, that essentially with a team that are based in the second office that we have here in Marlborough, they're calling out. So they're doing work for an agent up in Yorkshire. Our phones are geared up. It's presenting a Yorkshire phone number. Okay, maybe we haven't quite got the accent right, but we're generating instructions for them. And they're targeted. They've got to do a certain number of calls every day to generate booked appointments appraisals. And that's been massively, massively beneficial. I think it's gone beyond just sending the letters out for the agents, which is what we did before.
Yeah.
As a part of a very loose outsource. Now it's very, very in-depth. So our team are part of the agents team in terms of how that sits. So, James, for example, would be sitting on that agent's website. He'd be the go-to person for land. So that's definitely one area we've evolved. We've also got really clear on our mission. And one of the things that sort of irritated me really was that we get sort of this tag that we're a training company, and we're not a training company and never have been. However, clearly when you mentor people or coach people and whatever, you're, by default, you're training and coaching them. For us, we got really clear that we know what our purpose is now. Our purpose is about delivering opportunities. So the expansion of the team wasn't about going out tapping on a load of agents' doors about come and be a member. It's actually no. Our focus now is about we're going to talk to the group MDs, chief execs, or whatever the house builders, and we're going to bring opportunities to bear. And then with the design team that we've brought in here as well, and obviously we talked about an initiative that we're going to work on.
Yeah.
Hopefully, what we find is that we have a full life cycle for everything land and new homes related, and that's been a massive shift change for us. And also the quality of the new people that we've taken on to really complement what we've already got. I think sets us up really differently, and also starting now through our sister business Thomas May to really mop up white space areas and regions, and that whole vehicle is about us ultimately having much more leverage to opportunities that we then give to the members to help them. So back to that one agent who might be trying to get a Chris Nicholson site, for example. Well, if he knows that back here in Marlborough under Thomas May for a certain region that we're generating loads of opportunities, we're not fussed about presenting that to the developer. We just give those to the agents, right? So if that's going to help you win something, that's our give back. That's so it's just a different way of working now. I think that we really see as our growth for the next the next 12 months for sure.
I think that's really interesting, Kev, because obviously one thing that, if businesses were being very honest, sometimes they will realise that, look, this is an area we want to get into, but actually, they just know themselves that they feel like they've got too many spinning plates at the moment. And so probably wouldn't do it justice. And as you said, you do need them to. So you having that ability to now take away a large part of that and say, don't worry about some of these core activities, we're going to look after that for you, is going to be really dramatic, isn't it? I would imagine for a large percentage of agents out there.
Already, we started off the Southwest region last year. That's got a phenomenal amount of traction down there now. We know every house builder. We're in touch with them every month. And whilst our members in that area might not be, we're bringing them in by association. So, it's the Land and New Homes Network in association with all those respective brands in that area. Just the nice bolt one is Thomas May. So when somebody says, well, what's that do? Well, actually, okay, all these agents are farming their individual areas. What TM's doing now is it's mopping up any white space that says, right, all the system process we know that work to generate leads, we're just doing that basically as a security to make sure that an agent who then stops doing the planning, prospecting, or whatever it may be, is not compromising or conflicting with the rest of the network. So it's really designed now to be a much bigger part, and we'll grow that massively over the next 12 months.
Okay, Kev, great
guys.
Glad to hear it's going so well. Catch up with you soon, mate.
Take care. Cheers.